Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Greater Naples. My name is Tony Fisher. I am proud to serve this congregation as its minister. Great to see everybody here in the sanctuary. Good to see everybody out on the pavilion. Even some fresh faces that I haven't seen for a while. Good to have you with us on Facebook Live. Welcome into this worship space with all of us here. As always, I like to give a shout out to those who help bring this service and these Sunday morning activities together. We start this Sunday with the hospitality crew who is always there brewing the coffee and creating a few little nice things for sustenance after a very difficult service. I think that's their role. And I'm especially grateful to our fabulous staff, Anna Riazzi, David Bosworth, and we've been adding to that staff lately. We have Diane Jacobs as our new office assistant and Georgia Hopeful as our new RE assistant. So that's very exciting. Today we've got Ken Hartman in the AV room along with John Forsyth. Daniel Goodset is away for this week and back next. And last but not least, we have our wonderful co-music directors, Abby and Sean Allison. So thanks to all those. I hope when you have an opportunity, you'll give them your thanks as well. For all of you joining us for the first time, is there anybody in the sanctuary that's here for the first time? Welcome. It's great to have you with us and for being brave enough to put your hand up in the air. And if you're joining us for the first time online, we're grateful for your presence as well. We urge you to find out a little bit more about the congregation by asking your neighbor or a friend. Also letting us know your email address so we can send you our regular email blasts about the congregation, what's going on. And we are having today an orientation after the service, so if you're interested in finding out a little bit more about this congregation, about Unitarian Universalism, then we urge you to show up. And then that gets repeated on a regular basis, so if you can't make it today, that's absolutely fine. Our mission states that we are a welcoming congregation freely seeking intellectual and spiritual growth, that we strive to create a larger community of peace, of justice, and of love. We strive to live our values out in public and work together to create an atmosphere here of caring and love. So let's take a deep breath together as we start our morning service with the prelude. With humility and courage born of our history, with curiosity and compassion springing from our minds and hearts, we are called as Unitarian Universalists to build the beloved community where all souls are welcome as blessings and the human family lives whole and reconciled. With this vision before us, we light our chalice. Please join me in the chalice lighting words you'll find in your order of service or on the screen. May this flame stir our hearts and remind us of our mission to be truly welcoming, to grow in mind and spirit, and to widen the circle of peace, justice, and love. And let's rise as you are willing or able and join in singing our opening hymn, number 1000, in the Teal hymnal, Morning Has Come. The words will be on your screen as well.
Morning has come, I'll rise and greet the day. Dance with joy and sing a song of gladness. The light of hope here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. A new day dawns, once more the gift is given. Wonder fills this moment shared together. The light of peace here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. Open our eyes to see that life abounds. Open hearts to welcome it among us. The light of love here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home.
You know, there are moments in every service where I think, okay, we could finish now. And then, actually, right at the beginning with that hymn, with you singing it, I feel great. We could just sort of move on from here. So picture this. A crowded, mid-sized conference hall in a conference center in 1984. There's a tremendous amount of tension and excitement in the air. The Unitarian Universalist annual meeting, called the General Assembly, is taking place in Columbus. And on the docket this year is a full revision of our principles and purposes. In this mini conference hall, they are debating language. Right on the docket at this moment is one of our sources. So if you look at the piece of paper that was handed you this morning, in the middle it says, "The living tradition we share draws from many sources." And down about halfway there are two bullets, two dots, one talking about wisdom of the world's religions and one talking about Jewish and Christian heritage. And in this conference hall, they are discussing this language before it arrives in this shape. And these two pieces of information, the idea that we draw from both the world religions and also our Judeo-Christian heritage, are important. People feel very, very closely allied with either their Christian heritage or the sense that we are much broader than that. There is a tension in the room. As it stands, it is one bullet, one article, with the Jewish and Christian heritage and all the world religions sort of stuffed underneath as sort of supplementary language under that. And people are arguing this. And up on one side of the room steps a small woman, but fierce, and says, I think we need two dots, two bullets, one for Judeo-Christian heritage and one for world religions. And so people sort of nodded their heads, and stepping up on the other side of the mini hall right after that was, as he was described, this tall, slender, handsome minister from Kennebunk, Maine, who, while standing in line, actually wrote new language articulating this bullet saying, wisdom from the world's religions which inspires us in our ethical and spiritual life. And that it was a remarkable thing, because the assembly that said, yes, perfect. And so the assembly passed this new language forward to the larger plenary session at General Assembly for the whole group of UUs, and you know how we all get along perfectly well together, to debate. Unfortunately, the passage of the language in the mini-assembly didn't necessarily make it all the way to the plenary session, so they had to re-argue, of course, this language. And there was somebody who came up, because it was first the Jewish and Christian teachings, and then wisdom from the world religions. And so one person said, well, we need to put something in front of wisdom from the world's religions to sort of like other world religions. But that didn't really ring true with a lot of people, and that didn't feel comfortable. So ultimately they argued, well, let's just flip them over and then it would work. And in fact, it did. And immediately after that, as it was described to me, the language for this final bullet on the top section, one of our most important principles, respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are part, that we affirm and promote, was brought forth to great acclaim. And in fact, the Purposes and Principles in 1984 at General Assembly passed almost unanimously, which is remarkable, given the fact that they were developed over a number of years in congregational conversations and debates within leadership at the UUA and all across the country, and then in the plenary sessions and the mini-assemblies. This is a democratically created document, and as such, it's truly a remarkable piece of work, given that the language is there. But now it's time to do it again. Because we are Unitarian Universalists, and we do believe in change and growth and moving on and adapting to the times we live in, it is time to review this document that you have in your hands once again. Now, the current impetus to change this document came around from Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism, calling for the adoption of an eighth principle. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But this service is about Unitarian Universalism as seen through the process of trying to change language that we can all hold as important and that we can all identify with. We, as individuals, come to know that our faith, no matter how we perceive it, how we define it, is a dynamic thing. If we live our beliefs engaging in the world around us, we find that we are changed over and over again by that world and by the people in it. What we encounter day by day impacts our faith as much as our own inner reflection. We understand that the answers to life's questions, if they are to be found at all, don't reside solely inside our heads or in any one text or in the prescribed beliefs of any one sect. We may sometimes want it to be that easy, but life is far too complicated to be summed up in a neat package. So as Unitarian Universalists, we believe this should also be true in the ways we exist as a movement. Life, the world, changes us, and we need to change with it. How we articulate our shared values and how we are challenged to live those values must be relevant to the world as it is constantly revealed to us, not as it was. And let's remain seated as we join Abby and Sean in our centering hymn, Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Fuente de amor, ven hacia mí, y al corazón cántale tu compasión. Sopla a volar, sube en la mar, hasta moldear la justicia de la vida. Arráigame, libérame, fuente de amor, ven a mí, ven a mí.
As I have returned over the last week and gotten more in touch with people in the congregation, I become more aware of those who are struggling, those who have experienced great joys. And as always, it is a blessing to be with each other in our journeys, in our joys and in our sorrows. If you have somebody or something that you're feeling, someone in your thoughts, I hope you'll bring them to the fore and hold them there for a moment. And as I offer you this space and time, I hope you'll voice that name or that thought into this sacred space and in this wonderful community. Joys and sorrows. As we consider those parts of our own lives that rise and fall with the days and the seasons, we understand the need for compassion for others also traveling that path. We think of everyone in this nation struggling with anxiety over the great divides that haunt us, those who are suffering from ill health, whether it be COVID or something else. We honor all those who work to bridge our divides, who reach their hands across to grasp those of others who think differently, who believe differently. We know that our world will only survive if we learn to do just that. Please join me in the spirit of meditation. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Move in the hand giving life the shape of justice. Spirit of life and love, God of our deepest understanding, we bring ourselves into this room, whole, ready to engage. We bring our joys and sorrows, our triumphs and failures. We come sometimes with trepidation, fragile in the face of life's challenges. We come sometimes with exuberance, buoyed by wonder and love. We come to be held in the embrace of a loving community. We come to be challenged to be our best selves. Life is ebb and flow, a striving for integrity and wholeness in the midst of a troubled and troubling world. At its best, this place, this home away from home, this house of hope, provides the nourishment we need to go back out the doors and be the heart and hands of compassion and justice. At its best, it is a place where the possible unwinds into the actual, where each of us, with our faults and with all our talents, with our fears and with our hopes, find the courage and inspiration to be the change we want to see within ourselves and out within the world. May this always be so. May we work to make it so, now and always. Let's share some time in silence.
The hand seeks other hands to help, a community of hands to help. Thus, the dream becomes a community dream, belonging to all hands who build, who build.
Like all of us, our Unitarian Universalist Association is not perfect. Over the past few years, the association has once again been struggling to make sure that we are inclusive in all that we do. This reading comes from a sermon delivered on June 23rd, 2019, by the Reverend Marta Valentin as part of the Sunday morning worship at General Assembly in Spokane, Washington. In this sermon, she issues a plea and a challenge for our movement to fully embrace its own principles and welcome diversity among us. It is time to throw out our exceptional identity and humble ourselves. We have always done good in the world. It is in our DNA. The question is, are we ready to do better for our own people? Because the world includes every person in our faith, many of whom have been microaggressioned right out the door. It is the silent revolving door that many do not want to acknowledge. It is time to look ourselves not just in our faces, but in our souls, and ask ourselves, who are we really? Which Unitarian Universalism are we taking into our future? If we have no intention of taking it to the promised land, then let's just acknowledge that. Let's let go of our unfaithful practices and release what no longer serves us and make room for what will. How can we save the world if we can't save ourselves? Remember, I say this because I love you and I need you to survive. But I also say this, and I speak only for myself, I am running out of truths to tell and ways of saying them. It is time now to keep this beloved faith from fracturing. Moreover, in this delicate turning, let us remember that before anything, ante todos, somos seres humanos. We are human beings who have chosen to travel together, to make a new, more just world together. We must continue to choose each other as companions if we are to accompany one another.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
So if you didn't know already, you hadn't heard the story from one of our members, those two individuals in that mini assembly back in 1984 were Eleanor and Peter Richardson, members of our congregation. There were two other members of the congregation there that day, my wife Ann and myself, not as engaged in that process as Eleanor and Peter, who in fact met a few years later at General Assembly when they were single and ultimately, as we all know, got married. But in one of their first dates, they were walking around the GA space, and there were the principals up on the wall, and Eleanor went up to the thing and said, "That's my dot. That's my bullet point." Wherein Peter said, "No, I'm afraid you're mistaken. That is my dot." They're still married anyway. Ann and I were totally amazed by the energy, the commitment, the response to the changes that were being wrought in the language of our institution, our national institution. And I think truly inspired by that language. We have been living with the principles and purposes as they are here in front of you since that time, with only some minor exceptions. And in fact, our bylaws, the institutional national bylaws, call us to review the language of our purposes and principles on a regular basis, but we have not been doing that. And so the call from Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism was meaningful not only in its awareness that things needed to change, but that it was time, once again, to do that. The Eighth Principle Project started in 2013, aimed at articulating a commitment to dismantle racism and other forms of oppression within our covenants made between the members and the UUA. So the eighth principle, just to share with you, I have once before, but the eighth principle is stated in this way. Either as an eighth principle that we affirm and promote this, or it has also been offered up as a part of the covenantal language. So basically it says, we are journeying toward spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. We've been struggling with this work for a long time. We have brought it forward in many different ways and promotions and educational opportunities, and still, both within our national organization and within our local congregations, we struggle with the idea of being more diverse, working hard to be more diverse. So the Eighth Principle Project addressed something vital that had been missing in our UU movement, namely that anti-racism and anti-oppression must be central to congregational life. Because as an institution, as an organization, we are a ground-up organization. The power rests in you, the congregation, the people in the pews. And if we're going to change, it has to come from within the pews and the people there. The process of examining and possibly revising Article 2 of the UUA bylaws, again, which is what you have here, is something that's scheduled, demanded by the bylaws. But the impetus from Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism have given it greater impetus, greater focus, and so a few years ago, in Article 2, a Commission on Change was brought forth and given the task to really look through this whole document, to look and see how it might change, not just adding one principle or editing this language, but looking at every piece of it, from the purpose of the organization, which you'll see on the back, section C22, the purposes of the UUA, looking to see if that really truly tells us what we need to know about the purposes of the UUA and what it's called to do. Is there, for example, a call for the UUA to minister to the congregations, to be pastoral in its presence? So there's a lot of things to look at there. Obviously, the article on the section on inclusion is critical to what we do moving forward. The freedom of belief clause is central to who we are as an institution and may need some additional language. We think about the purposes and principles primarily, and that's what it is, of our 7 principles, these first 7 bullets, and the sources from which we draw our understanding of the world, the 6 bullets underneath. The only change to this document since 1984 was in 1987 when this final bullet in the sources was added, the spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions which celebrate the sacred circle of life and instruct us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature. The difficulty, of course, is that this is language we've known for so long and come to understand as sort of central principles to who we are as a tradition. And I think one of the things I do is I look at those and I sort of extrapolate in some way our values. And I'm pretty good, as many ministers are, talking sort of generally about our UU values. Our UU values call us to do this, or ask us to do this, or rest within us and move us in certain ways. But we've never really, as a movement, articulated what those values are. The principles are a reflection of the values, but not so much the values themselves. So the Article 2 Study Commission did some wonderful work in working with congregations, with study bodies, with calling people from all over the country, having panels, having conversations among themselves and UU leadership also, to determine and to bring forth and try to understand what values we hold. And not necessarily surprisingly, but wonderfully, they found that we do share common values. When we walk into this place, sometimes we say, well, this is a wonderful place. There are a lot of like-minded people here. In reality, I hope that what we understand, what we feel, is there are like-valued people here. Because actually, if we're out there on the pavilion and we're talking in coffee hour, are we agreeing with everybody about everything? And no, we're not necessarily of like mind with everybody in the sanctuary. We know there's a range of political beliefs here. And so we rest in the values that we hold as common. So they did a wonderful study, and from that study and from their work of sifting through the values that they found, there were a number that sort of rose to the top, and I want to share those with you. So one of them was pluralism, diversity, our freedom of belief, and the wide range of spiritual practices and beliefs that we hold within our membership. And of course, our sense that the world is a diverse place and should be reflected in our movement. Interdependence, that final bullet in the principles, that sense that we are interdependent. We are dependent on one another and thus need one another to survive. We value justice and the work of justice in the world, and combined with that, we value equity because we believe in fairness. And so when we see something that's not fair, we work for the justice that's called for. We value generosity and sharing both our resources and ourselves in the world to make it the place we want it to be. We value evolution and change because it's going on constantly whether we want to or not. I think I said that last week. And most importantly, we value love as a motivating value for all those things. And all of these are interdependent themselves. They work with one another. They're not separable necessarily. So I want to share the language that the Article 2 Study Commission shared in General Assembly this year in terms of those values that we hold dear. Because I think that was really, really powerful. So we value pluralism and diversity, and our ability to embrace our differences is what makes us unique on the religious landscape. There is no other faith tradition that believes in that freedom, in that understanding, and that each of us has a different way of looking at the world, and we celebrate that. We are not constricted into a small space of belief, a creed. We are creedless. And so we value that sense of pluralism and the diversity of thought, of ideas, of spirituality, and of the way we present ourselves in the world. We value interdependence. We need one another. No one comes into the world alone, and we cannot thrive alone. We are not only dependent upon each other, but on the very planet we call home. We value justice. As Unitarian Universalists, we believe we are here to create beloved community, not only within our walls, but in the world at large. We value equity, tied closely with justice. Equity is the beginning and the goal of our justice making. It is because we believe in fairness that we value equity. We believe in generosity. We believe we should be generous in our spirit and our resources in order to create the communities of love we dream about. It is in the generous heart that strives to bring more love, more freedom, more peace into the world. We value evolution. We welcome transformation. As the hymn says, we are free from bonds that bind the mind to narrow thought and lifeless creed. Through our history, we have evolved and will continue to do so. Finally, we value love. A love of humanity, a love of the earth, a love of all those who inhabit the earth. Our love is active and committed to do justice and to love kindness. So as this Article 2 Study Commission moves forward, they will be sort of formalizing some of this language, and they were clear at this past General Assembly that they don't have the final language. Maybe these particular values or the way they're expressed won't be what is final as we move forward into next year. And in fact, if you find that there's something that you think is missing, if you find that some of these words don't actually do for you what another word might do, it is up to you to move forward and contact the commission, maybe through me or some other manner, and let them know. Give them an opportunity to consider what you think. This is a democratic process. The commission will be formalizing language, going through some additional conversations across the country, and then be presenting some language to the UUA Board of Trustees in January that will then be either approved or sent back for more study, and then brought to General Assembly again next year in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. When the people that are there, the people that are online, have an opportunity once again to do some wordsmithing, some changing, some arguing, to make the next principles and purposes meaningful. The last time this happened, it happened because of the women's movement, of a group of women within Unitarian Universalism that looked at the previous set of principles and said, I don't think so. For instance, I'll give you some of that language. To cherish and spread the universal truths taught by the great prophets and teachers of humanity in every age and tradition, immemorial, summarized in the Judeo-Christian heritage as love to God and love to man. Or perhaps to encourage cooperation with men of goodwill in every land. So you can understand, with our sensitivity currently, how the women in 1970, in the late 70s, began to look at this document and say, this doesn't fit. This doesn't work for me. And in just the same way, those who are on the margins of our tradition now are looking at the language here, and while agreeing that much of it is beautiful, they're saying it needs something more. It needs something more to articulate who we want to be and challenge us to live into that. It's an incredible endeavor, and it will happen. Hopefully some of you might be inspired to attend GA in Pittsburgh in June of next year, to be part of that. It is, GA in and of itself is an incredible experience. Sitting in a room with 4,000 Unitarian Universalists is it's pretty daunting actually, but but it is very exciting to be there, and the wealth of opportunities to go to workshops, to engage in worship, to enjoy social time together is pretty remarkable. Since Unitarian Universalism doesn't feed us the answers to some of life's sticky questions, we are challenged to do much of our own theology, to do the work of understanding ourselves in the world, putting together a picture of the world that makes sense to us, and that then a way that we can live out our lives. But we don't work in isolation. We work in community. Nothing that we think of can exist in and of itself. We need one another, not only to grow and live and to be human beings, but also to thrive. And we are social creatures, to engage with one another, to argue, to love. From my earliest memories in the Unitarian Universalist congregations, I feel like I've been giving more than I can possibly tell. I think about that feeling of belonging that a community can offer, being welcomed as who I am at every stage of my life, not only physically but mentally. Within that rich, multi-generational setting, never being asked to conform to a creed or dogma, but allowing the development of my own spirituality. I think about the sense of being a part of a larger community and the accompanying responsibilities that entails. Developing a caring concern for people outside my family or even my community. Growing awareness of the inequities in the world and responding to the call to work for justice. Finding my role and my voice in the world, and then having a home to which I can return when I feel lost and broken. I think of challenging sermons that I've heard and valuable workshops I've attended that have left me with so much to chew on and incorporate into my own sense of self and the world. The freedom of this tradition offers us the possibility of this kind of growth. I think warmly about the community of friends we have found here at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Greater Naples, and how much you have contributed to my growth as an individual, of course, as a minister. I think about the young people we are encouraged to support here in this space. They may be small in number, but what we can offer them is of incredible value in their lives and their futures. A sense of belonging to a community larger than their own family, a place where they can launch, from which they can launch themselves out into the world with a sense of integrity, a sense of justice, a sense of self, but a sense of self that's not sort of too much a sense of self. All these possibilities, all these things come from and through a Unitarian Universalist tradition that has provided the grounding and the freedom, the roots and the wings, if you will, of my life, and I hope of yours and those that have come before and will follow. I'm still learning, I'm still testing and growing. I hope that I will continue to do so, and I hope that our movement, our Unitarian Universalist movement, will continue to examine itself and change and grow with the times. I am, I know, passionate about Unitarian Universalism. Open, welcoming, and loving communities that I've been a part of. And I believe that each of us needs to continue our journeys, as does the Unitarian Universalist Association. And it needs our support in that work. We may love some of the language we see here, or we may care very little about it, but it is important. It is very important to how we face the world, how we can in ourselves articulate who we are outside these walls to people who ask. And so as we learn and grow about Unitarian Universalism, how this movement, how this commission articulates should be something that we all feel strongly about, and hopefully the results will be something that allow us to engage our national organization, congregations around us, and the world with brighter eyes and a more clear spirit. So may it be. So I hope as we take time to reflect on today's words, our stories, and the music that we've shared already, that you'll find it within yourself to be generous to this congregation and its work. The morning's offering for that mission will be greatly received.
You can hold my hand when you need to let go. I can be a mountain when you're feeling valley low. I can be a street light showing you the way home. If you can hold my hand when you need to let go. I want a house with a crowded table and a place by the fire for everyone. Let us take on the world while we're all still able, and bring us back together when the day is done. If we want a garden, we're gonna have to sow the seeds, plant a little happiness, let the roots run deep. If it's love that we give, then it's love that we reap. If we want a garden, we're gonna have to sow the seeds. Yeah, I want a house with a crowded table and a place by the fire for everyone. Let us take on the world while we're all still able, and bring us back together when the day is done. The door is always open, your picture's on my wall. Everyone's a little broken, and everyone belongs. Yeah, everyone belongs. Oh, I want a house with a crowded table and a place by the fire for everyone. Let us take on the world while we're all still able, and bring us back together when the day is done. And bring us back together when the day is done.
Thank you. So, this is a moment in the service where we get a chance to sort of share what's happening, and as usual, when I come back, there's a lot of things happening on a daily basis here in the congregation. What we reserve this time for is something sort of all congregational. And that includes our orientation today at 11:15, I would say, right back here in the sanctuary. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about Unitarian Universalism and about this congregation, how we're structured, how we move forward, what opportunities there are engaging in the congregation, then right here at 11:15, have a chance to go out and get some coffee and have a little bit of conversation, then come on back in. I'll be here with John Pipkin, a member of our membership committee. Where's John? Is he in the sanctuary? There he is, right there. Also, in, let's see now, only 2 weeks from today, our religious education program will start up again. And we're excited about that. Started cleaning out some of the space in the back there, making sure it's ready for our kids to return. And also, we understand some new children joining us this year. If you'd like to receive the YRE Youth Religious Education newsletter, let me know or let Stephanie St. John know. Stephanie is our Director of Religious Education. She can be reached at yre@uunaples.org. And if you'd like to participate, to engage with the kids in some way, as simple as greeting on a Sunday morning or bringing snacks or being an observer in the classroom, anything, if you'd like to participate, then let me or Stephanie know. Would be just delighted to have you involved. And it's not often a huge commitment. So let us know about that. And that's it for today. Let's rise as you're willing and able and join in our closing hymn, number 145 in the gray hymnal, As Tranquil Streams. This was written by the Reverend Marion Franklin Ham in anticipation of the merger of the American Unitarian Association with the Universalist Church of America. It was actually written in 1933. The merger didn't actually take place till 1961, so there was a long period of discussion and conversation about how they were going to make that work. But anyway, As Tranquil Streams, number 145.
As tranquil streams that meet and merge and flow as one to seek the sea, our kindred hearts and minds unite to build a church that shall be free. Free from the bonds that bind the mind to narrow thought and lifeless creed. Free from a social code that fails to serve the cause of human need. A freedom that reveres the past but trusts the dawning future more, and bids the soul in search of truth adventure boldly and explore. Prophetic church, the future waits your liberating ministry. Go forward in the power of love, proclaim the truth that makes us free.
And all that we have ever been stands with us now on the brink of all that we aspire to create: a deeper peace, a larger love, a more embracing hope, a greater generosity of spirit, a deeper joy in this life we share. Go in love, go in peace. Have a wonderful day.
Be the change you want to see in the world. Be the change you want to see in the world. Be the change you want to see in the world. And change will come to you. you. Be the change you want to hear in the world. Be the voice you want to hear in the world. Be the voice you want to hear in the world, and change will come to you. Be the light you want to see in the world. Be the light you want to shine in the world. Be the light you want to shine in the world, and change will come to you. Be the change you want to see in the world. Be the change you want to see in the world. Be the change you want to see in the world, and change will come to you. And change will come to you. It's okay.